Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to late edition program at SATV. What does late edition means? The latest news, the latest information came from the newsroom. My name is Rashid Kanchan. I do welcome all of my very prominent, learned, experienced panelists tonight, smart as well. Mohammad Zamir, former ambassador and former chief information officer. He will be our guest tonight in my studio. I will have Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed FCA, an economist, Mullah Amjad Hussain, editor, Energy and Power, and through Zoom we will have two foreign guests tonight, Ms. Leila K. Afshar from Istanbul, Turkey. She is an investor. She is the chief executive officer of PLY Market Group, Netherlands. She will join from Istanbul, and we will have very eminent professor from Fordham University, Mr. Professor Dr. Lance Strait from New York. This is a very smart panel tonight, and our subject is tonight Ukraine war, impact on economy, impact on fuel prices, and hits to the all over the world, hits to the lives of 800 crore people, 8 billion people around the world. Let me start from Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed FCA, former General Secretary, Bangladesh Economics Association. Dr. Jamal, I will be very straight to you. After 2 years of COVID around the globe, losing millions of people, business stopped, tourism stopped, economy collapsed, and we are now facing another disaster, another catastrophe, Russian aggression to neighboring country, Ukraine. How do you see the economic impact around the globe?
Obviously, thank you very much. Obviously, it will have an impact on the whole of the world. We are already witnessing. But the thing is that the regarding the Ukraine, this is we have got the foreign expert here regarding the foreign relation.
Yeah.
Dr. Jamir, he will explain this thing. I will go for economic part. Okay.
Okay, I'll come back to you for economic part. Let me go to Mullah Amjad Hussain. He is the editor, Energy and Power. Mullah Amjad Hussain, every business, every move depends on the fuel price. Fuel price determines the stock business. Fuel price determines the commodity business. What do you think? It will have a great impact, big impact, huge impact on economy, because Russia itself a big supplier of gas to the Europe.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rashid Kanchan, to invite me in the program. Actually, the economic development is main component is energy. When after recovering from the COVID pandemic, the world facing different crises, and when it came into operation economy again, the energy price enhancing all over the world. But after starting the war between Ukraine and Russia, the things are moved quickly, especially the Europe facing biggest problem right now. The major energy supply to Europe is Russia, and now lot of conditions, lot of embargo towards Russia, it's create uncertainty all over the world energy market, and it's create a big impact in Bangladesh. But I look back in 70s oil shock, and then Bangladeshi leader Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he took this oil shock as opportunities, and he started exploring.
So you say there will be impact, suddenly impact.
Yeah, oil in offshore, and now we are facing big famine in primary energy supply.
Thank you, Mullah Amjad Hussain.
So
let me
we can actually explore our own resources to bring from this crisis.
Thank you very much.
Bring out from this
Thank
crisis.
you very much, Malamzad Hussain, editor, Energy and Power. We are in a connection with Professor Dr. Lance Strait. He is the professor of Fordham University. Dr. Strait, welcome to late edition program at SATV, and thank you very much for your contribution and for joining with us. My first question would be very straight. Would you please describe about the latest Russia-Ukraine war situation in the battlefield, in the media, in the trade war, in the cyber world, and in the global economy? Professor Dr. Lance Strait, Fordham University.
Well, it's very clear that we have a massive instability at this point, and where it's going to go is anybody's guess right now. It's hard to imagine this continuing for that much longer, but we're still really in the early stages, and it's hard for anyone to make predictions. I think people love to make predictions and try to reduce the uncertainty, and that is a whole kind of vocation, if you like. But we also have to admit at times that life is unpredictable and events are unpredictable, and we don't know the outcome of a lot of the actions that we take. And one of the things that we tend to forget is the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. As the old saying goes, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. That's clearly the case with Putin, who clearly didn't know what was going to happen when he invaded. But now we have to deal with the uncertainty of the future. And I think that bodes pretty I think that's pretty predictive of the future that we're moving into, that we had a relatively stable sense of the world in the late 20th century, and that's evaporated now as we're moving into kind of the mid 21st century. I think we're in for a long period of instability.
It is a good indication you have given. Let me read two lines from Washington Post. They said the world must brace itself for an economic slowdown, a burst in inflation, and a potential wave of social unrest as energy and food prices rise to intolerable levels. Ladies and gentlemen, Washington Post says it will go intolerance level. Dr. Lance Strait, I will love to connect to Turkey, Istanbul, neighboring country, and have a good impact on our engagement with this war. Russia invaded Ukraine. Miss Laila K. Afshar, welcome to SATV late edition program. My first question would be very straight. Do you think the fuel price will be higher as war is still going on? We are observing, we are experiencing the war in 55th days. Laila.
Thank you, Rashid. Thank you for having me here. And I would like to use this opportunity first send my warm regards from Turkey, from our heart to Sheikh Hasina, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. We are really proud that a woman can make this much difference in Bangladesh. We will observe all her effort and everything she did for Bangladesh in social level, in economical level. And as a woman, I'm really proud that I'm a guest in Bangladesh TV. About what we're discussing now is that, yes, for sure, Russia will lose control of this war. And as we are aware, and we can see very precisely and comprehensively by the Ukraine's resistance in this war. And it all can give us the very clear picture of the power of the military of Russia on the ground. For sure, it brings up a lot of concern for everyone in the world, and especially those who are concerned for economic impact of the war. And but what we can do is that just following the news and media and see the predictions. But as previously mentioned by other guests, that it's truly impossible to go by assumptions and predictions. That what will happen, and I hope it will happen in a very peaceful way. But what we can say about this danger that is coming to every nation nowadays is that Putin has stated that nuclear power doesn't have any impact of human being, but we are all aware of the danger. And that's why the neighbor countries of Russia and neighbor nations are very worried about it, and they're ready to join global union due to this concern.
Yeah, I want to stop you here. I beg your pardon, Leila K. Afshar. I just want to stop here. You used one very powerful word, that neighboring country can be affected by the resulting of this war. But we have seen the resulting already reached to Asia. Sri Lanka is an island country in South Asia, already declared itself craft. I am sure Mohammad Jamir, former ambassador and former chief of information officer, a seasoned diplomat, will reply both of my guests, Leila K. Afshar from Istanbul, Turkey, and Professor Dr. Lance Strait from Fordham University. I think you have the time to respond, both of my guests.
Thank you very much. And may I say that it's a pleasure to be with such people with great dignity and great understanding of how the geopolitical strategic paradigm is changing. Because one thing is very important is we have to realize that the only thing that is very certain in this current situation is that there will be uncertainty in the future. There is only certain thing about the whole paradigm. The second thing is that what is unfortunate about Ukraine is the entire community in Ukraine seems to have been scattered by war and by grief. And the third thing is that although this is a humanitarian crisis, it is having a devastating impact on children, and that is creating its own matrix. Today, for example, I was listening to claims being made by Russia that they have more or less got into a position when they'll be able to take Mariupol, and the shelling of Kharkiv and another 16-17 people killed. And they are saying that while we have a setback, we are still moving forward. But the point is, what is moving forward? Are you calling the glass half full, or are you calling it half empty? That is my point. Now, I am saying this because within this entire geomatrix, there is also the question, as you have raised, of energy and food prices, and the fuel prices going up. And then there is the question of the economic slowdown. But at the same time, one thing has not been mentioned. I'm as a person who keeps on writing, and I've been to Ukraine a few times when I was.
Mohammad Jamir, would you mind if I just ask you a very straight question? Do you acknowledge this is a war, or it is an aggression, or it is invasion? Which word you allow? Because Western medias are not yet telling this is a war. They say, somebody says this is invasion, somebody says aggression, and Western media is saying this is just expansion. In which word you will define this situation?
This is a humanitarian crisis created by an invasion. And this is something which has to be understood, that it has resulted in more than 5 million persons leaving the country and hundreds of people being killed who are civilians. And that is why it is a humanitarian situation for which Bangladesh came forward. And in the United Nations, we made it very clear that Bangladesh is against any humanitarian crisis. But one thing has been missed out by the great people who are here tonight. And we're referring to the question of cyber security, because on 24th February, as Russian troops entered Ukraine, a cyber attack also disrupted communication networks in Donbas.
Sir, I'm sure Professor Lance Strait from Fordham University will respond to you. Professor Dr. Lance Strait, my question is, how do you see? Because we know Mr. Vladimir Putin is one of the most unpredictable leader or president in the world. He takes 5 years for preparation for capturing country like Chechnya. He takes 5 years of preparation for capturing another part of Ukraine, Crimea, but he is taking 55 days. Maybe it will be a longer version of European war in the current recent history. What do you say? Is it a techniques of Putin to take longer time to demantelize the NATO? Professor Dr. Lance Strait, what do you think? How Westerns are responding? Where is NATO? Where is Western countries? Where is European Union to respond for this war?
Well, first of all, on that question of is it a war, if you speak to the Ukrainians, there's been a war that's going on for the better part of a decade. And they're actually critical of the way in the West it has not been reported as a war. So this is just a continuation of a conflict that has been going on since the invasion and takeover of Crimea. So we see this as a long-term war rather than as something that just happened, a month or two ago. But those are kind of questions of how do you want to categorize this, because what's the difference between a war and an invasion? Wars often begin with an invasion, and of course the Ukrainians are fighting back, and they didn't just accept that these breakaway regions are just going to break away, and they have every right to defend their territory. We do see that the arena has changed quite a bit. You mentioned cybersecurity, and again, the war against the West has been going on for a long time, but it has been along the lines of the old Cold War, with assassinations occurring in the UK and other kinds of actions, including cyber attacks and other uses of new media to interfere with the British Brexit referendum and the 2016 and 2020 American elections. So that is all part and parcel, whether we want to call it a war or not. We have been in conflict with Russia, and that there is this kind of lining up between the democratic world with I join Lily in applauding Sheikh Hasina, in the sense of also being pro-democracy, and we are seeing an alignment starting to happen where democracies, Western democracies and liberal democracies, are not just going to kind of passively say, well, everyone has to decide for themselves, but are going to actively engage in defending democratic values across the globe. That at least is a potential outcome and a hopeful outcome of what is going on. But the technology truly is changing everything that's going on. Just as in the US, the George Floyd video led to massive disturbances and massive protests and calls for change, and some real change, albeit happening much too slowly. But in the same way, what's happening in the Ukraine is documented by cell phone cameras, by smartphones, and by all kinds of different media in a way that it is just not happening in other kinds of arenas. And that gives an enormous advantage to open societies, both in terms of protest and morale and just kind of joining together, but also in the conduct of the war itself when they are well aware of what's going on. And note the really innovative strategy that Biden had at the very beginning for that rather than keeping intelligence secret, was publicly announcing what the Russians were going to do. And every time when they said they weren't going to do it, and then they did do it, not only was he preparing the world, but also showing how they're being dishonest in their public communication.
All right. We have got a very clear picture. It is the time to go for a break. But ladies and gentlemen, before going to the break, I am giving you an update. Russia launches attacks along 300-mile, ladies and gentlemen, 300-mile eastern front, and gives ultimatum to Ukrainian defenders hold it up in Mariupol. And before going to the break, I am going to tell you one thing, that elders starts the war, children, women and civilian dies. Rich people starts the war, poor people dies. Politicians start the war, soldiers dies. Is there any war which will end all the war? We don't want that war as well. We'll be back soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before going to the discussion and debate, I will have something to tell you. Just received an information that Vladimir Putin's forces have attacked along a boomerang-shaped front and stretches more than 300 miles as part of a full-scale ground offensive to take control of the Donbas region. What does it mean? Operation is going on. War is going on. Extensive war is going on in Europe in 2022. When war starts? When dialogue fails. When war starts? When diplomacy fails. I will first ask a question to my guest, Mullah Amjad Hussain, editor, Energy and Power. My question is, already I said, every business depends on fuel price. Do you find the fuel price is going to be very soon in higher level, unaffordable?
Look, you already mentioned, you quote the Washington Post report. They predict energy and food price will be higher and intolerance for the user. I'm actually stop my discussion area within Bangladesh. You know, Bangladesh is the growing country, but unfortunately last 5 years gradually we dependence on the imported energy. In 2017 our imported energy percentage is 28, now it is 48 last year. So we are depending on the importing energy, so we are depending on the geopolitics on energy price. So this war actually create lot of new dimension in the international energy supply and price. Mention one thing, you already mentioned the high cost of energy, but I look back into one thing. If we have money, can we get energy in future? We are try to getting energy from the Middle East, especially the LNG. Now the Europe, they plan to stop the importing gas from pipe gas from the Russia, and they gradually try to shift it to mitigate their energy demand, especially the gas from LNG. So they will start harnessing gas from the Middle East, Australia, as well as US now started developing their stopped LNG project, especially the North America, from the North America. And President Biden, they gave some promise to Europe to supply gas. But if we look into the Bangladesh, last week government start rationing gas for 4 hours to the industry. It's a
Mr.
very
Amjad,
negative indication for the Bangladesh market.
Can I ask you a supplementary question. As per you said that the fuel business is concerned, the buyer ends will be interrupted. Buyer ends will have to pay more. Do you think the producer's end will be beneficiary from this war?
Yes, yes.
So I think here is the Layli K. Afsar from Istanbul. She will respond. Mullah K. Amjad. Layla Afsar from Istanbul. She will respond. Mullah Amjad Hussain, editor, energy and power. Layla, Mr. Amjad says the buyer ends of power will be interrupted, will be loser. Do you think the producers end, like Turkey is a big power player, Russia is a power player, they produces power, Middle East, Gulf countries are a power player. Do you think they will be beneficiary from this war, Layla Afsar from Turkey?
Actually, yes, I agree with him. I guess Turkey actually is in the center pack, and it has a lot of benefit, and it's getting a lot of benefit from trading with Russia and Ukraine so far, and it's going to expand it. But this fuel price will impact everything, and as we can see, it already impacted. You can see the cost of the fuel in cheap by packaging, by energy of production, by shipment. Everything is clear, and it's sensible these days that yes, the producer will get benefit of this war. Maybe they add some hidden cost to the products that they claim that it's due to the fuel, but we don't know. Yeah, I agree.
All right, Layli, thank you very much. Layli K. Afsar from Turkey, Istanbul. I want to come to an economist, Professor Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed, FCA.
I am not professor.
All right, sir. Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed, FCA. I just want to know, two of my great panelists tonight, Mullah Amjad Hussain and Layla K. Afsar, both of them say there is a loser, there is winner from this war. In terms of economic perspective, do you acknowledge that poor people will be more poorer and rich people will be more richer from this war? That means, being a moderator of this show, I can say what is a business.
Actually, historically, if we look at history, we see that the 1973 war, after 1973 Arab-Israel war, there was an increase in the price of the fuel.
Right.
Well, of course, then it comes later on in 2008, there was an increase in the oil price.
Again.
So it is and now regarding the Ukraine and Russia war, this is a war, this is, I should say, this is an aggression first. And you captured this country without any no international rules, regulation, you did not follow that. You attacked them.
Russia did not respect the sovereignty of a neighboring country.
At the same time, they, to my understanding, it is that the big powers in the world politics, they are arranged game for to hold the development of the developing countries, especially in the Asian region. There is a development miracle is going on, and Bangladesh will be the one of the sufferer for that. That's why I am talking on this. You see, this when they increase the fuel price.
You said Bangladesh will be one of the sufferer, but IMF says, I apologize, Asian Development Bank says Bangladesh will not face the impact because Bangladesh has got enough reserve in the central bank. Bangladesh is still in a pipeline to
reserve is there, but it is a continuously. You can maybe
business.
If this war continues up to 1 year, 2 years. So 55 days already. You have said that 55 days already gone.
All right, sir. I am giving you. I am complimenting you one information from International Monetary Fund. CART, its forecast for global growth this year from 4.4% to 3.6%. That means the global growth rate will be interrupted huge.
Yes.
And the UK's economy also faced a 1 percentage point cut in its growth forecast this year.
This is to my understanding, this is the arranged game among the big powers, and they are creating this problem, and they want to halt the other developing countries, those who are becoming the newly industrialized country.
Dr. Jamal gave a very suspicious cue, sir. Dr. Jamal gave a very suspicious. As a host, I will have to talk about it.
1973,
Some media is also saying, as like Dr. Jamal
history.
Hussain, some media is also saying this is not a war, this is not an invasion, this is a war game, or some media saying this is a proxy war. How do you describe being a diplomat?
They should have also said this is not a war, this is a business.
Yeah.
Why? I'll tell you why. Because today in the newspapers in Bengali, there is a phrase which says "Juddho joto dirgho tato chawda tader hashi," which is what?
So what is a business?
Yes.
The arms producers, they have sold to United Kingdom $2.4 billion of arms and weapons to be sent to Ukraine, and the European Union has purchased $1.6 billion, altogether $4 billion, and these arms have been sent to Ukraine by them across the border. Now, they want the war to continue because that way they will sell more of the weapons. I'm coming out of that. The second thing is, with regard to fuel and with regard to gas, that again the question arises, who is going to gain money from such a turmoil? Is it America by exporting more of their gas? Or is it Britain by saying, no, we will not buy the gas because we also have our own oil? Or is it Ireland who is going to suffer? Or is it Lithuania, which is already very worried about it? Now, when we are talking about this whole question, we have to understand, as has been explained by our distinguished lady from Turkey and our respected professor from abroad, from America, that the global economy is today faced with various angles and various response systems.
But you also said some companies or some countries are making money from this war. So is it contradictory, sir?
No, they are not, because they are using it to make money. And don't forget something, Shetotse, that this is creating a situation where some countries are being blamed for
So,
keeping
sir, do you
quiet.
like to call it as an arranged war?
Yeah.
It is not a arranged war, but
Why, sir, I have a question to you.
yes.
Then why European Union remaining silent? Why they are not taking action, anything? No action.
They are doing war from
Yes.
war from home. You know, ladies and gentlemen,
It
you
is all
have
virtual.
you have heard two terms: work from office. Office during the COVID time you have heard was office from home or home office.
This is war from
The
home.
NATO, the European Union is doing war from home. Before going to Professor Dr. Lance Strait, I have something to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. Did you ever ask yourself how the First World War has ended? It is because of money. How the Second World War has ended and who was the winner? It was ended because of money. The world is going to experience another economic shutdown. I will come back to Professor Dr. Lance Strait. He is a senior professor from Fordham University. My question will be very simple and very flat to you, sir. How do you describe world's economy after COVID and the final graveyard after this war?
Well, I'm going to first of all go back to the point about the complete unpredictability of what's happening, and this includes the fact that what we're seeing ultimately is the breakdown of the world order that was based on nation states. And even though we appear to see two nation states at war, that is Russia and Ukraine, and there was this desire with the breakup of the Soviet Union to create stable nation states. But everywhere in Europe, if you look at the history in Europe, the borders changed like every year until the end of the Second World War. These territories went back and forth, and many of these border territories were governed by not just two, but three or maybe four different countries. So that idea, a lot of it also revolves around that Donbass region, which is a breakaway region. I'm old enough to remember East Pakistan, and when Bangladesh became independent, and all the suffering that went on during that time, and George Harrison singing about it, and with the concert and so forth. I don't know, but I would bet that there are parts of Bangladesh that want to break away from the nation, just as there are parts of every nation now that have their breakaway regions, and each region then will get support from some other country that is not that gains from the loss of the first, and each place that becomes a breakaway region will have a smaller area that wants to break away from it. So we're really moving into a kind of disintegration of the stable idea of the nation state, that and with it the idea that economies are governed by nation state to issue currency. We're seeing that with the all of the cryptocurrencies that have been coming out and that have offered alternatives. So where are we going? I think in one way, we've been talking about globalism. This is a great setback for globalism, but the long history of it will be towards globalism, towards global institutions. But before that happens, the nation states themselves will have to break down. That order has to be broken down in order for there to be a global order. So it's hard to say again what will be next in the short term, but I do believe that in the long term we're moving toward a greater integration, and that these things are going to settle out ultimately. But how we get there, that's the real problem, and undoubtedly there will be continued conflict and violence as we move towards that direction, and continued efforts to bring it back, to claw it back to the old order.
All right, Professor Dr. Lens Strait from Fordham University. I will have to go to a small break because my producer Sheikh Khalid Palash is requesting me to go for a break. When I'll be back, I'll have a question to all of my panelists. We are in a war situation. We have suffered 2 years, devastated COVID-19 around the globe. We have lost millions of people. Now for business, few people put the world to the war, and 8 billion people will have to suffer. My question will be how we can see the war is going to be ended. There is a phrase called what doesn't determine who is right, and there is no prize the second position winner in war. It is called loser. Only one party who declared the war or who wins the war has the prize, but lot of people has to die. Millions of people go displaced, economy collapsed, and buildings, infrastructure, roads, everything gone die. Let me come back to late edition program of SATV. I want to start from Leyla K. Afshar, CEO, PLY Market Group, Istanbul, Turkey. She is a seasoned and experienced investor. She speaks well about South Asia, and she is staying in a country which country has a big role of this war. Turkey is trying to do some negotiation between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. One big man, one gentleman. Let me ask you very straight, Leyla K. Afshar, do you find any potential or any possibility of this negotiation? Because we know Israel is trying to arrange a table to start negotiating to stop this war. Leyla K. Afshar from Turkey.
Actually, the benefit of Turkey will be considered by this negotiation for sure. And I guess that Turkey is not just concerned for itself. It's, somehow I can say the relation will be affected somehow with other countries as well. So it's better to end well, and let's be hopeful.
So you believe so there will be possibility to start the dialogue between these two countries. But I have one more question.
Yes.
For the NATO, Volodymyr Zelensky has come into a fight with a big superpower of the world, Vladimir Putin. Where is that NATO? Where is that European Union? Where is that Western allies? Are they doing war from home?
That's a nice expression. Actually, we can use it. That's about your creativity of bringing up this. Thank you very much. Yes. Well, now the world is in a big change on politics and economic and security-wise, as we know. So each and every country is just looking and observing the capability of their enemies in defense. And I guess, they're getting ready. They're more careful about the capabilities of their enemies, because it just started, as you said, and it's not going to end very soon. As long as Russia can financially be supported by selling the fuel and getting impact on the fuel price, this war is going to continue. So where is the NATO role here? That I rather to have this conversation like this, that NATO actually, we all know that NATO has no defense any country we were supposed to do. They have close relation and candidate positioning, but they couldn't do so much so far. And every country will have to react, and every country has to select their own side in the war and after the war. So because nothing came out of a NATO process negotiation.
Laila, given a bottom line, NATO is a mastermind, NATO is an alliance, NATO seems power, but NATO is doing nothing. I am sure Mohammad Zamir, former ambassador, he will respond these very strong words by Laila Kapsar, because who dies in the war, he doesn't know what is war. Who lives after the war, he understands what is war. Mohammad Zamir.
Thank you very much. A very interesting explanation. But may I say that, and I think this is very important, may I say that it is the duty of Europe to try to resolve the crisis through discussion and not through humiliation. Similarly, the question arises, how is the relationship between China and Russia going to emerge and evolve over the next 6 months? What is going to happen also to the One Belt, One Road initiative? Is that going to continue? Is it going to stop? The last thing is, and we have seen that happening, that Russia has now started using rubles as a method of exchange of
Are you
money.
giving an indication that unipolar world is going to be ended, bipolar world is going to be
I'll say that you are going to have a bipolar world which will be tripolar in substance and quadrupolar in terms of effective manipulation.
So Mohammad Jamir has clearly indicated, Mullah Amjad Hussain, he has clearly indicated that no more unipolar world, bipolar or tripolar, whatever you say, world will experience the new polarization of the world. Dollar may face problems, ruble may raise to challenge dollars, and as well the Chinese are taking advantages from this war, because China's export growth rate is extremely high. Even war is going to be happen since last 2 months. So what do you say?
Actually, I would like to mention here 3 points. Number one is European region is interdependence. They cannot run alone. Any European country cannot run alone. But you look into the USA, United States of America, they are self-sufficient for their energy, but they stopped to import oil from the Russia, but they did not stop to import uranium rod from the Russia.
From Russia.
The American company importing their total amount of uranium rod 13% from Russia. So, they did not put embargo over there, but they pushed Europe to stop importing pipe gas, and they advised Europe to bring gas as LNG. But you know, the cost of pipe gas and cost of LNG is almost double, and it's changed the European economic map. I learned from the BBC the medium level one family annual energy cost was around 700 pound, and now it is grows up to 2000 pound. And in I mentioned just one figure. In 2020 January, the per MMBTU cost of gas is $2, and January 2022 it rose at $60, and now it is $80 more.
I'm extremely.
I'm really very scared regarding the future of energy supply in Europe, and what would it may be change the European landscape event, and Russia already searching their new partner to exporting their energy, and China and India will be their
new partners
for the energy business.
That means you acknowledge that the global polarization is going to be restructured,
right,
revised, re-edition, reintroduced. So many things is going to happen. Before I going to Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed, I want to just read out one very funny, very nice phrase from the Mark Twain. He said, God created one thing, that is war, because Americans and British want to learn about the geography. And what is peace? Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is a strength. I just want to have a little question from you, and you have 30 seconds only. Do you find any possibility that Bangladesh will be hit hard after this war? Because Bangladesh faced COVID very smartly.
Bangladesh well managed, not only faced, well managed this one in the region. But the way things are going, you see in the after Second World War, they have created Marshall Plan. Through that, they have given resources to the developing countries as a loan. So now they have created again the war, and this is just like a drama. That's why, to my understanding, this is a drama. And they created at that time Hitler. Hitler was not created for a single day. He was created, he was nursed by the Western powers. At that, now Putin
so
is
you
doing
want to say
whatever he is saying,
yeah,
that the world foreign policy, and you see in the foreign policy, Venezuela, America is trying to negotiate with Venezuela.
I got it, Dr. Jamal Hussain.
Yeah. And
you are trying to say that
whenever
every
they make
fathers
money,
have fathers.
then everything will be all right.
You are trying to say that
will be economic gain, they will.
Every mighty father have fathers, ladies and gentlemen. War is not one day's production. War is a long way to go. I just want to come back to my very respectable guest from New York, Professor Dr. Lance State, Fordham University. I apologize, sir. I have only few minutes to distribute to my guest. My question is, do you find any potential that world is going to fight with each other, or world will be ended soon by the diplomatic steps?
Not by diplomacy, no. I don't see any potential for that. I think that as long as Putin is in charge, and he seems to be pretty intransigent when it comes to that. There may be other external factors that lead to the end of war. And I wouldn't discount NATO. It's actually an aberration that for the last 50, 60 years, things have been so very peaceful on the European continent because Europe has been incredibly violent for most of its history, with a great deal of warfare. And I think that can come back up quite easily once events start to move in that direction. So I wouldn't discount the possibility of a renewed NATO alliance that is, in fact, very aggressive in its response to Russia. And at the same time, I would say that part of the impact of what is happening is exposing a lot of the rot within Russia and and we also see it in China with their zero COVID policy. That is that authoritarian governments gain short-term advantages, but in the long term, they start to fall apart because of the lack of free flow of information.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to come only for 30 seconds to Laila K. Afshar from Turkey. My question is, do you find any potential that other countries will be engaged in this war? Very little time for you, Laila K. Afshar.
Truly, I can say there is possibility, and it all comes from how they will struggle during the next 3 months.
All right, Laila K. Afshar from Turkey, Professor Dr. Lance Strait from Fordham University, Dr. Jamaluddin Ahmed, former Secretary General, Bangladesh Economic Association, Mullah Amjad Hussain, Editor, Energy and Power, and Muhammad Zamir, former Ambassador. All distinguished guests, panelists, I am extremely grateful to you for your strong and very wonderful contribution to tonight's late edition. I am grateful to my audience as well for listening us, and thank you SATV Authority for introducing such a brilliant program, global program at SATV screen. I wish you everyone good night.